Chapter 17. Feeding the Earth. Salt in Agriculture. 1. Cato and Virgil. Ancient Wisdom for Cattle and Hay. Long before modern science, the Romans knew a secret. Salt made farms thrive. Cato the Elder and Virgil weren't just writers, they were agricultural experts. In their books, they explained how salt transformed farming, how it kept animals healthy, how it made soil productive. To them, salt wasn't just for cooking, it was the foundation of successful farming. A farm without salt was a dying farm. Cato focused on practical matters. He told farmers to sprinkle salt on their hay. This wasn't about flavor. Salted hay stayed fresh. It didn't rot or grow mold. It kept its green color through winter storage. Animals loved salted hay. Cattle that ate it had shiny coats. They grew strong and fat. They could pull heavy plows all day. Salt made the difference between weak livestock and powerful workhorses. Virgil saw deeper patterns. He noticed that sour soil could be healed with salt. Land that grew nothing but weeds could be transformed. A little salt and sweet grass would return. He watched animals carefully. Sheep and goats would search desperately for salt, like humans seeking water. He realized animals knew something instinctively. They needed salt to produce good milk, to grow thick wool. Roman farms had a distinctive smell, salted hay in the barns, and a distinctive sight. Cattle gathered around stone troughs filled with rock salt. These ancient farmers understood a truth. Plant health, animal strength, and human prosperity were all connected by salt. 2. The 1570 Command. Salt as a cure for the murrain. In 1570, disaster struck Europe. A cattle plague called the murrain. The disease killed fast. High fever, animals staggered and fell. Death came within days. Entire herds died. Villages faced starvation. Governments panicked. Without cattle, farms couldn't function. No plowing, no milk, no meat. Civilization itself was threatened. So they issued a command. Every farmer must give their cattle salt, not as food, as medicine. The decree was specific. Mix salt heavily in water, force each animal to drink it, sprinkle salt water on their bedding, wash the barns with brine. Why did they think this would work? They understood something about disease. The murrain thrived in stagnant blood, in weak, unsalted bodies. Salt would thin the blood, stimulate the liver, help animals fight the infection from within. But salt also worked from outside. Farmers scrubbed their barns with salt water. This killed germs in the wood and stone, dried out the damp corners where disease festered. The results were striking. Farms that followed the salt mandate saw their cattle survive. Farms that relied only on prayer saw their herds die. The smell of death in the stables was replaced by the clean scent of brine. Salt didn't cure every animal, but it saved enough to preserve European agriculture. This wasn't superstition, this was early veterinary science. The state recognized salt as a weapon, a shield against plague. The 1570 command proved salt could stand between livestock and annihilation. 3. Sweetening the grass, why livestock prefer salted pastures. Farmers discovered something remarkable about animal behavior. Livestock are drawn to salt like magnets. Cattle, sheep, deer, they all have an innate hunger for sodium. They can sense it, seek it out. This gave farmers a powerful tool. By sprinkling salt on specific areas of pasture, farmers could control where animals grazed. The technique was called sweetening the grass. Here's how it works. When you apply salt to soil, plants absorb it. The sodium enters their cellular structure. This changes how they taste. Grasses become less bitter, more succulent, sweeter. Animals can tell the difference instantly. A salted patch of grass gets grazed down to the roots, while unsalted grass just feet away gets ignored. The animals aren't stupid. They know which grass is better for them. This lets farmers manage their pastures brilliantly. No overgrazing in some spots, no undergrazed weeds in others. The salt creates uniform, healthy pasture. But there's more to it than taste. Ruminants need massive amounts of salt. Their digestion requires it. Cows, sheep, and goats have multiple stomachs. They produce liters of saliva for fermentation. Without enough salt, their entire digestive system slows down. Milk production drops. They become weak and lethargic. Salted pastures let animals self-medicate. They get the sodium they need just by grazing. Their metabolism stays strong. Their milk stays rich. In the American West, ranchers used this brilliantly. They'd place salt licks strategically. Cattle would follow these salt markers for miles. No fences needed. The herd followed salt like a compass. You can hear it in a well-managed pasture, the rhythmic sound of contented grazing. You can see it, healthy, thriving animals with glossy coats. Salt is the language animals understand, the invisible force that shapes their behavior, that turns wild grassland into productive farmland. 4. Killing the weed. Brine as a natural herbicide. Salt has two faces in the garden, life-giver and life-taker. A pinch of salt sweetens the grass, but a strong dose kills weeds dead. Long before chemical herbicides, farmers used concentrated brine. Poured on unwanted plants, it worked like magic. The weeds withered and died within hours. The mechanism is simple, brutally effective. When you spray strong salt water on a weed, you create extreme conditions around its roots and leaves. Salt pulls water out of plant cells. This is basic physics, osmosis. The salt concentration outside the plant is higher than inside, so water flows outward. The plant's cells shrink, collapse. The weed wilts, turns brown, dies. Even if rain comes later, the damage is done. This isn't poisoning, it's dehydration. The plant literally dries out from the inside, even while sitting in moist soil. The beauty of this method? It's targeted. You can spray brine directly on the weed's crown, on the cracks in your stone path, along your fence line. The salt stays in the upper soil for a while, prevents new weed seeds from germinating, gives your desired plants time to establish. In Old English gardens, they'd use salt water to keep cobblestone paths pristine. In Mediterranean courtyards, to control growth between paving stones. But there's danger too. Use too much salt, spread it too widely, and you create dead zones, sterile ground where nothing grows. So wise gardeners used precision, a strong brine solution applied exactly where needed, not broadcast over whole areas. You could hear it working, the satisfying crackle as the weed dried to straw. Within a day, what was green and stubborn became brown and brittle. This teaches an important lesson. Concentration matters. The same mineral that feeds grass at low concentration kills weeds at high concentration. Salt is a tool. Like any tool, skill determines the result. 5. The Cheshire Custom. Salt and rain for soil fertility. In northwest England, farmers developed a unique tradition, the Cheshire Custom. Cheshire sits above massive underground salt deposits. The miners and salt workers produced enormous amounts of waste, refused brine, impure salt, material they couldn't sell. Farmers looked at this waste and saw treasure. They developed a precise technique: apply waste salt to fields just before the autumn rains, not during dry weather, not after the rains, right before. The timing was everything. Here's why it worked. Cheshire soil tends to be acidic, sour, full of compounds that inhibit plant growth, aluminum, organic acids. These make the soil hostile to grass roots. When you apply salt, then let rain wash it into the soil, chemistry happens. The sodium displaces the toxic elements, pushes them deeper into the earth, away from the root zone. What's left at the surface is sweeter soil, more alkaline, perfect for grass. But if you apply salt without rain, it concentrates, becomes toxic, kills everything. The rain dilutes it, distributes it evenly, turns potential poison into fertilizer. Farmers who mastered this timing saw remarkable results. Their grass grew thick and rich, unusually nutritious. Cows grazing these salt-treated pastures produced exceptional milk,
higher fat content, better flavor. This milk made better cheese. Cheshire cheese became famous partly because of the pastures, which were enriched by salt, which came from waste nobody else wanted. There was another benefit. Salt controlled soil diseases, fungal spores, parasitic nematodes. The salt-rain combination created temporarily hostile conditions for these pests. Natural fumigation, no chemicals needed.
In spring, you'd see farmers carefully measuring waste salt, broadcasting it over fields as weather turned stormy, then waiting for rain. Days later, the grass would emerge brilliant green, thick, vigorous. The cows would practically race to graze it. This custom teaches several lessons. First, waste can be treasure. What industry discards, agriculture can use. Second, timing and technique matter more than materials. Salt itself isn't magic, but salt applied correctly at the right time with the right weather transforms land. Third, local knowledge beats book knowledge. Cheshire farmers didn't have chemistry degrees. They had generations of observation, trial and error, attention to patterns. They noticed that salt plus rain equaled fertility. They refined the timing, they measured the amounts. They created a system that worked. This is agricultural wisdom at its finest. Not high-tech, not complex, just deep understanding of how elements interact. Soil and salt, rain and roots, grass and cattle. The Cheshire Custom proves salt isn't agriculture's enemy. When used with knowledge and respect, salt becomes a powerful ally, turning poor soil productive, sour land sweet, ordinary pasture exceptional. It's a reminder that the best farming works with nature, understands cycles, uses what's available, transforms limitations into advantages. Salt, waste product from mining, became the foundation of regional prosperity, the key to famous cheese, the secret of thriving dairies, all because farmers paid attention, experimented, learned, and passed their knowledge down through generations. This is salt's true role in feeding the earth, not as harsh chemical, not as environmental threat, but as ancient, proven tool. When wielded with wisdom, salt helps earth fulfill its potential, helps life flourish, helps communities prosper.